Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome to the Eisner Foundation's Eisner Prize Fellowship Showcase and Info Session, which we are excited to host during Global Intergenerational Week. My name is Chelsea Mason, and I'm the Director of External Relations at the Eisner Foundation. And before we begin, just a few notes. First, captions are available for this session and can be enabled by clicking the closed captions button at the bottom of your screen. Second, we'll be leaving plenty of time for questions about the fellowship program at the end. Please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we will respond to them at the end of this session. And then finally, this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. You'll receive a link to the video once it's available in a follow-up email. And you can also visit our website, eisnerfoundation.org, for all the details on the Eisner Prize Fellowship and our grant-making programs. And we also invite you to join us on social media for the latest news, updates from our partners, and celebrations of how intergenerational connections make our communities stronger. So now to kick us off, I'm pleased to introduce the CEO of the Eisner Foundation, Trent Stamp.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, we're excited to showcase the incredible work of our inaugural group of Eisner Prize Fellows and share our plans for the next cohort of fellows. But first, I want to give you a quick introduction to the Eisner Foundation and to our Eisner Prize Fellowship program. For those of you who are new to the Eisner Foundation, we've been supporting nonprofit organizations in Los Angeles County since 1996, and a little more recently in New York City as well. Early on, we supported many organizations working with children, and we later expanded to those working with older adults. Over the years, we noticed something special. Programs that put the two groups together instead of serving them separately were more efficient, more effective, and much more empowering for all involved. Participants stopped being passive recipients of services and instead actively served each other. They formed relationships that continued and grew outside regular programming times, and they changed the way they thought about other generations, finding value in their experiences. So in 2015, we made the choice to become the first, and as far as we know, still the only US-based funder exclusively supporting intergenerational programs. Today, we're proud to support a wide range of incredible organizations doing intergenerational work that makes our society and our communities much stronger. From 2011 to 2022, the Eisner Foundation honored people and organizations doing exceptional intergenerational work across the country with the Eisner Prize for Intergenerational Excellence. We're extremely proud of our Eisner Prize winners, which include organizations we hope you're familiar with, like Generations United and Bridge Meadows and CoGenerate, formerly Encore.org. But now we're looking to support those we hope will be the next leaders in our field. So last year, the Eisner Foundation transitioned to the Eisner Prize Fellowship Program to support emerging intergenerational leaders by providing financial resources, networking opportunities, and the prestige of the Eisner Prize to individuals with new ideas and perspectives that will propel the field forward. And now we're going to hear from those first 5 Eisner Prize Fellows as they talk about their incredible work. For the last 10 months, they've been hard at work developing and executing their intergenerational projects, and we're excited to share their progress with you as they enter the final 2 months of the Eisner Prize Fellowship. Chelsea, you want to take it?
Chelsea, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Trent. I am pleased to first introduce Lauren Fye, whose Buds and Blooms program brings together youth, older adults, and master gardeners in Columbus, Ohio. In addition to Lauren's work through their nonprofit Grow In, they were also appointed professor at Ohio State University at the beginning of the fellowship. Lauren, take it away.
Chelsea, thank you for that introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint screen. Presentation mode. All right, like Chelsea indicated, my program is called the Buds and Blooms program. So here's a little overview. So basically, like Chelsea indicated, it connects older adults that reside in the community, youth. We targeted undergraduate students at The Ohio State University, as well as master gardeners, which are a group of individuals that meet certain standards of gardening expertise. And together, creating this triad model, they were tasked with cultivating gardens that were sustainable. So there's certain level of experience and standards. We'll talk a little bit more as I go further in this presentation, but also talking about getting all individuals together to build something great and give back in the community by donating parts of harvest to underserved older adults in Columbus, Ohio. So this program itself, it started with one of the villages here in Columbus. So there's 7. So this is with Village in the Ville. So older adults, our criteria were if they had a yard, and if they were interested or are, have experience in gardening, gave us the opportunity to target individuals that wanted this experience. We had undergraduate students that are health science majors, but we are expanding to other groups of individuals in the community. And the master gardeners were there during this orientation. And as you can see on the far left photo, that is one of our master gardeners. She showcased an education that basically gave an education over how to build a sustainable garden, utilizing eco-friendly materials such as cedar and fir, or also utilizing like rain barrels to help sustain and utilize the rainwater. But then during this time, students and older adults were paired up, and they actually during this time, after listening to the education, went through and brainstormed and created a blueprint of the garden itself. Now, the second part of this pilot was actually preparing the land. So after building and brainstorming what they would hope the garden to see, as well as what materials they needed to have to make these gardens happen, we then had them go to each site on site with the master gardener and had the students come and basically do the manual work of leveling out gardens. So there's a lot of different things had to happen. Looking at this house in particular is by a river, so making sure we had certain materials to make sure it would be sustainable. Next part was actually building. So this was the fun part where it utilized a lot of skills. A lot of these gardens were pre-assembled, but there were some where we had to upskill students and older adults to use power tools, but we're able to build those to life. Part of the education orientation was understanding how to have good soil and compost. So utilizing those skills from the orientation as well as the webinars we've hosted. Students and older adults and master gardeners were on site to start collecting all the soil and compost. So doing, logs, different things that met the eco-friendly standards for the Green Spots initiative. And from that standpoint, then we're at a point where we're starting to plant the plants, which is exciting. So next steps that are coming up, we have a green spot education that all of our participants are engaging with master gardeners. And there's a link up here if you'd like to reference it. It's basically, again, like I indicated, certain standard, making sure it's eco-friendly. But this is a time where we're also having them connect with new master gardeners that are actually getting into the system and have expressed interest in participating in the program for future implications. This will allow them to kind of get a further instance of how to maintain their gardens. So after that meeting, some things that have been expressed by all the participants is they want to have a seed swap, potlucks, recipe swaps to make sure they're able to build a sense of community. And obviously, like indicated earlier, we're having intergenerational cooking programs, basically utilizing the donated produce to the cooking programs, and the participants are actually going to lead those cooking programs. So it's kind of giving back to a larger, bigger than itself kind of community. We are having that cooking program starting on August 10th. We also have planting maintenance education being sporadically placed based off of participants' wants and interests. And then we are identifying the next cohort of Buds and Blooms. So other than that, if there's questions, feel free to reach out to me. I have both my emails, so Ohio State email, as well as the Growing Intergenerational Community Programming email. Would love to talk to you. Again, this has been a really exciting process, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else on the fellowship program, all their programs.
Thank you, Lauren. Next up, we'll have Marvell Adams Jr., who has been creating a blueprint for intergenerational housing in partnership with HBCUs. Marvell also took on a new professional role as the fellowship began, and is now serving as the CEO of the Caregiver Action Network, in addition to his role as founder and CEO of W. Lawson and creator and facilitator of the Longevity and Inclusion Alliance Fellows Program. And Marvell, you are muted. There we go.
There we go. I was trying to find the mute button. Let me get this at full screen so everybody can see. Okay. So just a little bit of background, and just really glad to be here, by the way. Just a big thanks to Chelsea and to Trent for your leadership with the Eisner Foundation and for creating this fellowship. So background, there are about 100 older adult communities or retirement communities across the country that are affiliated with universities or academic institutions. None of them are affiliated with historically Black colleges or universities or predominantly Black institutions. So across the country, there are about 102 HBCUs that are recognized as institutes of higher learning established before 1964. And then there are PBIs, but none of them together, they collectively make up about 6% of higher education institutions, but none of them have a significant relationship with the intergenerational older adult community. So here's kind of the reasoning for this project of intergenerational housing. So 16 years from today, 81 million older adults, which would be a 44% increase. So huge leaps in the 65 plus population, and the largest increases will be among Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So just looking at the numbers more closely, so 56, probably more 57, 58 million right now, older adults across the country. That'll get to 81 million in just 16 short years in 2040, which will be a 47% increase. But of that increase, about half will be from the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community, and then a significant increase in LGBTQ identifying individuals that are older adults. And in each of these areas, particularly around LGBTQ, this is census data or census household pulse survey data that in many instances can be underreported. So these changes may be even more dramatic than we see right now. But at the end of the day, there aren't enough projected or current older adult housing supports and services that are seeking community. So just a quick understanding of how aging services works in the US, at least through the lens I see it. It's very siloed. And so you have essentially, if you have the means to be able to afford certain aspects of it, then there are more aspects that you can take advantage of. If you have unlimited means, you certainly can have concierge medical care, phenomenal nutrition, quality of life and community, perhaps beyond what others may be able to afford. If you have some means, being able to have housing, access to doctors and food, nutritional food. If you are a saver, but perhaps just really don't have great means, so I'd consider this kind of the middle class, lower middle class, perhaps apartment living or co-housing, maybe assisted living is in the cards or nursing home. But at the end of the day, you know, there is a great swath of the population that cannot afford access to older adult services, that use perhaps the emergency room or hospitals for their medical care when it comes to an urgent basis. They may be housing insecure, they may be food insecure. And so part of what our model does is really rethink how these silos are utilized. And so, you know, this is a very familiar pyramid around Maslow's hierarchy. But, you know, there's research, which was in 1943, but there's research that really is showing that in order for individuals to thrive at any age, but particularly older adults, there really has to be a notion of having self-esteem, connection, and safety as their boat, and recognizing that an individual cannot reach purpose, love, and exploration without their boat being soundly built. And so part of our model really looks at how can we holistically support older adults in conjunction with HBCUs, knowing the health equity and the disparities that exist amongst the brown and Black population. So that then envisions this into a new equity model, re-envisioned equity model, which takes all those aspects of living and puts the person at the center of those. And we highlight that in a couple different ways. So what we're referring to as culture-centric community, a campus-based and virtually engaged community living. So meaning having a footprint on or near HBCU campuses that allow for adults as well as chosen family options. So student housing, potentially adult children or grandchildren of individuals living there with affinity groups and focus on historically included groups. Also workforce family housing, so recognizing that housing is the first and foremost part of this because, as we mentioned in the vote earlier, as well as a housing crisis that still is pretty pervasive throughout the US. And then as well, what we're calling an at-home anywhere agreement, which essentially is a multi-tiered service agreement that at the bare minimum says you will have housing, you will have food, and you will have the ability to self-actualize. And so being able to have built into that, whether it's someone living on the campus or living in the wider community, but being able to, and what some folks call to is care coordination for those individuals, as well as offering higher end options that can help us kind of right size the cost of the community. Person directed, so medical and wellness and well-being services. And so including in the model geriatric practice and family medicine so that you can not only serve older adults, but the intergenerational components of the housing and the community as well. But this would also be something that would be not just for the campus, but for as a community resource. And so really trying to get to a population health model as opposed to just individual health. Food sovereignty and security. So actually addressing root causes of food insecurity, whether that's having training workforce opportunities with working farms that are on the land, or alliances with migrant farm workers that may be in the general vicinity, but also going back to notion of food as medicine in helping with health inequities by really getting at the root cause of some of our issues that we have for older adults in particular. And then also having a social justice aspects of this, of trying to infuse the opportunity to have access to these services and housing at any income point. So the deliverables that are coming out of this is a market study, which we're in the midst of completing now to not only continue to demonstrate need, which is really easily seen in the markets that we're considering for HBCU collaboration, an artist rendering of our housing concepts, as well as awareness and educational materials that we've begun to develop. And then finally, one of our deliverables will be a short video and one of our board members who's actually a rising first year at an HBCU is going to be interviewed for that. But also recognizing that we have a need to make the case for intergenerational connection across HBCUs. And so being able to have that as one of our deliverables is pretty important. I don't know if that was 5 minutes or not, Chelsea, but I kept it as close as I could.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Marvell.
Thank you.
Right. Next up, we have Raquel Padilla, who has been expanding her efforts at the Fresno Economic Opportunities Commission's Generations Serving Together project that brings together older and younger volunteers to serve youth by providing workshops on emotional literacy. And we'll bring up Raquel now.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm Raquel Padilla. Just a little bit about Generations Serving Together. Currently, I am the program coordinator for that, and I also work with AmeriCorps Seniors as the volunteer specialist at Fresno EOC. And I am going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see? Okay, perfect. We have expanded Generations Serving Together. It first started with our pilot project with CoGenerate. And the first year, we were able to recruit about 8 volunteers total. And currently, we actually have 4 interns and 9 senior volunteers. So Generation Serving Together is a program that sort of fights social isolation and loneliness with seniors and young adults and youth. And what we do is we bring local college students or local community members who are at Fresno State, Fresno City, and we actually pair them up with AmeriCorps senior volunteer with the foster grandparent program. And the program focuses on mental wellness workshops. And what they do is they go out to sites and they go like Boys and Girls Club, Youth Build Charter School, and they provide mental wellness workshops. And it is all based off of Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart, the 87 emotions that are in there. They teach them to the kids. And while they do that, they also build that co-generational relationship between the AmeriCorps senior volunteer and either the young community member or the young college student. And we have actually expanded. The first, when we piloted, we only had 2 sites, and we are now serving 3 Boys and Girls Club. We actually expanded a it's sort of we collaborated with a board member of Fresno EOC to with Neighbors Helping Neighbors Thrive to create a safe place for children in a high poverty area where kids don't actually have access to resources, especially after school. Also Fresno EOC Youth Build Charter School and Fresno EOC Soul School. And total served, we are currently serving about 166 youth and young adults. This is the Mindful Me after school program that was collaborated with Neighbors Helping Neighbors Thrive. We really brought the neighborhood together. It was awesome. We brought older generations, younger generations, and we provided mental wellness workshops, lesson plans, and it also expanded to the gardening edition as well. So we're including gardening, and we're including how gardening can be mindful for the kids in the neighborhood. And then we really wanted to provide, because of the extra funding from the Eisner Foundation, we really wanted to provide something for the Boys and Girls Club after this year. The Boys and Girls Club we see a need that the Boys and Girls Club needs a calming space in the after school program. You know, sometimes it can be overstimulating for the kids and they just need a calming space to go to. So we actually are partnering with Pinedale Boys and Girls Club, and this is the before. They had a room, and it was sort of like a storage room, and that's my co-generation team right there. And right now we're in the process of finishing it, and it looks like this now. And it's just, we got the carpets cleaned, and it's we painted it, and it's looking a lot calmer. So we're excited about that. Because of the foundation, because of us expanding, we've actually been contacted by Boys and Girls Club to sort of create like a mindfulness event to be part of their Torch Club Summit. We actually provided the mindful eating session and mindful painting session, which was really cool. The kids got to experience painting and how it can be mindful for them, and how they were able to paint like landscape, and we provided mindful me kits, and there were about 80 children there, and it was really awesome. It was a really great experience to be a part of. And that is going to conclude my presentation. That is my email. If any of you guys have any questions, you can always email me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raquel. That was lovely. So next, we're going to have Kenna Embry, whose project Forever Friends places foster pets with Vincentian independent living residents who share responsibilities with college students in their Students in Residence program in Pittsburgh. Add Kenna in here.
Hi, everybody. First of all, Trent and Chelsea, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a wonderful 10 months. Yeah, let me pull my presentation up. Okay, so this is Forever Friends at Vincentian. This is like Chelsea said, a pet fostering program, an intergenerational pet fostering program. The overall goal of this program was to reduce loneliness and social isolation, as well as pet homelessness in the Pittsburgh area through the connection that the residents and our students in residence have by sharing the responsibility of fostering a pet together. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Vincentian, we do have intergenerational shared housing. Here in my building, we have 4 undergraduate college students that live here for free in exchange for service hours with the residents. And then we also have another site in the heart of Pittsburgh that has 10 graduate students, 4 doctoral students, and then that building is connected to what used to be a hotel, is bought out by University of Pitt. So we've been welcoming in health service students from Pitt University as well. But here at Terrace Place, because Animal Friends was the closest shelter and very organized, that's who we partnered with. So prior to bringing in any foster pets, we had Animal Friends come in, give a Q&A to those who were interested in participating. And then once we figured out who would like to participate, we did a couple of trainings with the residents on how to properly care for a pet. So originally, the foster pets stayed in the residence rooms, which allowed the students to come to the residents and say, hey, this is my schedule for the week. I would like to come down here and sit with you guys, or maybe we could take the dog for a walk at this time. But like every program, there are some uncertainties that arise. Our first 2 dogs that we had were puppies. The picture is of one of the puppies. After some time with the puppies, we realized that there were some fall risk or fear of falling happening, which is when we pivoted and we had the students host the pet in their apartment, which changed the dynamic a little bit to have the residents come down and say, okay, here's my schedule for the week. Currently, we just welcomed our 5th foster last week, and it wasn't a dog, but it's that cute little bunny named Snickers. This is our last foster before the current cohort of students moves out. We are anticipating the next group of students to come in sometime mid-June. And then once they're in here and I get them going with the fostering, my plan is to then implement Forever Friends down at Shenley Gardens, which is personal care, long-term care, memory care residents with our graduate Chatham students. And then once that's going, maybe we will get some official evaluation happening, collecting data. I have been collecting data with the residents and the students, and it seems like it's all going great. Like a lot of the residents are like, I've been exercising so much more. I feel so much happier. So it's definitely there. We just have to put it down on paper. But yeah, that's Forever Friends. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. There's my email, my phone number. Yeah.
Thank you, Kenna. It's wonderful. Finally, we're going to go to Cynthia Wilkerson, who was recently promoted to Executive Director of LBFE Boston. Her project, Gen 2 Gen Q, creates intergenerational opportunities around Boston for older and college-age people in the LGBTQ+ community. So we'll bring up Cynthia here.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thanks, everyone, for spending this time with us today. As Chelsea said, my name is Cynthia Wilkerson. I'm the Executive Director at LBFE Boston. And the Gen 2 Gen Q initiative that I've been working on is a project that at LBFE we've wanted to do for several years. And the Eisner Prize Fellowship was an opportunity really initially just to put it all down on paper, to really put down put the proposal together. And the fact that I have actually been able to, was able to be part of this inaugural group is, well, was a big surprise. And it's just been a wonderful experience. The work that I've done these past 10 months has really been about community engagement and community outreach. This was an opportunity for for me to do several community scans to really understand what and what isn't happening in the LGBTQ community in the greater Boston area, insofar as intergenerational engagement goes. I've also done a tremendous amount of community outreach these last several months. And that's meant that this project has given me the opportunity to talk with new community partners, to forge new connections, and also to work with existing community partnerships in new ways. So it's just been a win-win all around. Another achievement in the last several months is identifying an evaluation partner for the project going forward. We'll be working with the Gerontology Institute at UMass Boston, and that is work that will be supported by the fellowship. We've also, I'll share my screen. We also had our first in-person event earlier this month, and that was a really great opportunity to bring college students from several schools into an existing program, Out for Supper, which is a project of Ethos, which is one of our aging service partners in the Boston area. And that was a rainy, early spring evening. It wasn't really wonderful weather, but everybody who said they were going to be there showed up, and people stayed, and they stayed, and they stayed. They kept talking until this photo is, these are the last folks standing. People just stayed and kept talking, and we had a group of largely international students, and I think that they had they brought so many different perspectives to the group of older LGBTQ participants who were largely white and largely male. And then we had a group of students from all over the world. And there was plenty to talk about, and it was a really wonderful opportunity. So we will be having another event with Out for Supper next week. We have some other partnerships that are coming online, and I'm really excited. I feel like we are just at the very beginning of this project, and that it will be growing and expanding in the coming months. I'd like to just say, as other fellows have said, thank you to Chelsea, thank you to Trent, thank you to the entire Eisner Foundation team. This has been a wonderful opportunity. I've been doing intergenerational work for almost 10 years, and this has been a chance to connect with a much larger community of practice, which is it's so important. We're all of us in this intergenerational space, it's the most natural, most normal, most not rocket science sort of work, and yet it doesn't seem to be as widely recognized as I know we all know that it should be. So to be able to connect with a larger community is really fabulous. Not only the other fellows, but practitioners from all over the country and internationally. So I just, if you're considering applying, I would really encourage you to do so. It is a really remarkable experience. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. I think you just sent us off on the perfect note there. I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for all the incredible work you've done. We truly could not be happier with our very first cohort of Eisner Prize Fellows. And so now, as Cynthia so beautifully set up for us, we're excited to talk about our plans for the second cohort of Eisner Prize Fellows and how you can apply. We have a short presentation to share with you, and we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. So please drop those questions in the Q&A box, and we'll also send out a recording of this video and upload it to our YouTube channel. So let's get started. I'll turn it back over to Trent, who will kick us off.
Thanks, Chelsea. Thank you again to our fellows for your hard work and your accomplishments. You have indeed set a high bar for future cohorts. I hope that many of you are here today as potential applicants for the next round of Eisner Prize Fellows. As you just saw from our current group, the Eisner Prize Fellowship brings together new leaders working to create innovations in intergenerational connection and provide them with the resources, the connections, and the visibility to complete a project during the course of a year, and hopefully the tools to continue thriving in our field afterwards. This year we had 5 fellows, and we hope to select 5 for our next cohort as well. Before we go too deep on the logistics of the fellowship, we usually find it useful to establish what exactly we mean by intergenerational programs, although you just saw 5 good examples. So to us, the strongest ones always have these things in common. First, they're intentionally designed to encourage interaction between people of different ages, usually with people they're not related to. These programs create activities and opportunities for people to engage, to share, and to get to know each other. As many of our partners will tell you, it's not enough just to have older people and younger people in the same room. You have to jumpstart the interaction, and then the participants can take it from there. Likewise, programs that simply serve people of different generations without intentionally facilitating interactions between them typically aren't the strongest intergenerational programs that we look for. Second, these types of programs see participants as resources, not passive recipients of services. Even if a program involves one generation helping another, there's still a mutual benefit for both groups involved. Everyone contributes in their own way, and everyone receives the benefit, and the community then thrives as a result. For those of you looking for inspiration, we have profiles and videos of our partners showcasing their work on our website, and we encourage you to explore those. If you're in the early stages of developing intergenerational programming, I would also point you to the amazing resources that our friends at Generations United and Co-Generate have on their own websites. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chelsea to go over the application process and the plans for the coming year. Chelsea?
Thank you, Trent. So the Eisner Prize Fellowship is designed to incubate a defined project during the fellowship year. It includes a total of $50,000, $10,000 for the fellow to use as a stipend, and $40,000 to support their project. The fellows gather regularly throughout the year to share their progress and learn from each other and experts in our field. There will also be an in-person opportunity to connect during a kickoff retreat in New York City on July 22nd through 24th. Expenses for the fellows will be covered, and then virtual meetings throughout the year will be co-created with the fellows so that they're tailored to their backgrounds and their projects. The application itself is open to anyone working to foster intergenerational connection in the United States. We're open to a broad range of project proposals, including new programming models, research, technology, and concepts we haven't even considered. To us, this is a chance to incubate out-of-the-box ideas that bring people of different generations together. We also realize, as you heard from our current fellows today, that projects may evolve as the fellowship progresses. So we encourage applicants to think big at this stage in the process. And I will note that while we're asking for your birth year in the application, just so we get a demographic baseline, there are no age restrictions to apply. All of this is intended to be as open as possible to encourage a wide range of applicants working in the United States. At this time, we are unable to extend the fellowship internationally. So when you begin the application, you'll start by providing some basic contact and demographic information. And then the questions that follow are designed to get to know you, your interest in intergenerational connections, your successes thus far, and the project you'd like to pursue. The project you propose doesn't have to be fully fleshed out at this stage, but you should have a clear vision of what you'd like to accomplish within a year and with a budget of $40,000. The questions will be available on our website now that the application is open, and you can review them before you begin. There is also an option to include supplemental materials in 2 places. First, there's a text box where you can share with us anything you'd like us to know that didn't fit earlier in the application. You can include links to relevant work or extra information that you think would be helpful to us as we review your application in that text box. Second, there will be an option to upload relevant materials. Nothing is required, but depending on who you are, what kind of project you're proposing, you may want to take advantage of this option. For example, someone in college or graduate school could include a letter of support from an academic advisor stating that they support the student's participation in this fellowship. Someone proposing a technological innovation could include evidence of previous technical accomplishments. Someone proposing to do their project under the umbrella of a nonprofit could submit financial reports for the organization if they're in senior leadership, or include a letter of support from the organization's leader or their supervisor. And of course, anybody could include a letter of recommendation from a mentor, peer, supervisor. Essentially, this is an opportunity to provide evidence that you can accomplish the project you're proposing and that you have the support of the people around you. Once more, this part is completely optional. And I'll mention that due to the high volume of applications we do receive for this fellowship, we highly encourage you to curate what you choose to upload. And the application itself is open now through May 22nd. We then plan to announce our inaugural fellows in mid-June. So you will get a follow-up email from us with this recording and a link to the application, which is already live at our website, along with more information at this link, eisnerfoundation.org/EP-fellows. So thank you all so much for your interest in the Eisner Prize Fellowship Program. We've been thrilled by your excitement and enthusiasm, and we look forward to reviewing your applications. Now we have some time for questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A box. We may miss it if you put it in the chat, so please put it in the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. We will get to as many as we can, and we'll prioritize the questions that are applicable to a wide range of people rather than a specific individual or a project. So with that, we will stop sharing and check out what we've got in the Q&A here. Trent, why don't you kick us off with, can more than one individual apply for the fellowship within one nonprofit organization?
Yeah, the answer to that question and to many of the questions that we're going to get to is yes. We're relatively flexible and we're relatively interested in interesting and new ideas. We like collaboration. If you wanted to apply together, that would be one thing. It would just be one prize for that particular organization. It would be the $50,000 for the stipend and also for the implementation of the project. You could do that. And I guess theoretically, if you had 2 emerging leaders at one particular organization that both wanted to do a project and they weren't necessarily the same project, I guess you could apply separately also. We're looking for interesting, innovative, entrepreneurial leaders who have good ideas for intergenerational programs. So I would say, yeah, you could apply 2 people within one organization, either as a shared project or potentially as 2 distinct projects.
We have a question. If the proposed project is fiscally sponsored by a nonprofit and not part of an existing organization, is that eligible?
Again, I think a lot of these questions are going to be about the finances of the particular projects. And I think that when it comes to it, we're going to have to get into it with those particular organizations. We prefer there to be a 501c3 associated in some way whatsoever, either housing the project or potentially serving as a fiscal sponsor. But if you have a great idea, we want to hear about it. So if every question is going to be something related to, can this be paid out? Can this not be paid out? The answer is we can probably figure out a way to make it be paid out. It essentially ends up as a grant making program and a prize for those that are involved. But I wouldn't let those types of things stand in the way before you applied.
We have a question, can the program be a newly established program or does it need to be a new program? Also, does the program need to be entirely funded by this grant or can it be partial?
To the first one, it can be something that's an idea that's starting off, that maybe is in its infancy stage. Yes, you don't have to think of something right now as a new thing. We're not looking for long-standing programs that have already been out there. But if it's an emerging program in the last recent memory, sure. It doesn't have to be a brand new one. Perhaps that's easier to get off the ground even and to come to fruition within the year of the organization. Does it have to be entirely funded? Not necessarily. Again, if it's within a 501c3, it's a little naive to say that that the $40,000 in costs are going to go exclusively to the organization, and that's going to make it happen, because a lot of these organizations are already providing a lot of the administrative support in the back end. So we'd want to hear about the specifics and figure out what exactly is going on. If it's a $2 million project that's as a small grant to supplement, that's probably not the type of thing that we're looking for. But if it's a smaller piece of an organization, I think that's probably going to be okay.
On a similar note, we have a question, can an organization apply without yet having identified the fellow, which kind of sounds like a question about a small grant.
Yeah, I think that's probably a no. Belying my wish to cast open a why not kind of philosophy. I think that if you have a project but you don't have a person in mind, you probably don't have a fellows program. You probably have a grant program, and we're looking for 5 emerging leaders who are really invested in the intergenerational world, who really want to go the next route in developing great intergenerational programs, people that we can connect to leaders like Donna Butts and Mark Friedman and Dorinda Schubert and people who are real innovators out there in the intergenerational world. And so if we didn't have a person to connect, I'm not exactly sure how a fellowship would work.
Can 2 leaders co-apply?
Yeah, I think that's similar to what we talked about before. Sure, if you have a co-CEO model or 2 people who are working together, absolutely. There would probably just be 1 prize, though. Important to remember when it comes to budgeting, and when it comes to the expenses involved. I don't imagine there's a scenario where we'd want to give 2 prizes of the 5 to 2 people at one particular organization, because there is one of the cool things that we found over the last year is there are far more emerging leaders in this field than we anticipated. And last year, choosing the 5 that we went with was a lot harder than we originally anticipated. There's a lot of really great people out there. And one of the things we want to do with this is shine a light on what they're doing and the types of programs that they're creating. So I don't imagine that there would be a scenario where we would have 2 winners from one organization.
And it's important.
Two separate winners from one organization. You could team up. Sure, we love collaboration, but it's going to be one. It's going to be one fellowship.
Yes, and it's important to know that on the application itself, the application is set up for a single individual. So if you are planning to apply as a team, you are just going to need to pick one of those people under whose name the application will go. And then, of course, the rest of the application you can treat as if it's an application for a team of 2 people.
Sure.
What about if an organization is operating in another country, but a co-founder is in the US, can they apply?
These questions are getting awfully specific at this point. If you're a 501c3 here in the United States, sure. If some of the work is international, okay. But we're not set up from a tax status where we're able to start supporting intergenerational or international organizations. So I think that may be too specific a question for a broader info session like this. We'd want to know the specifics, but the answer is if you're headquartered in the United States, you have tax ID status in the United States, but some of your work is international, that's probably okay.
We're getting let's see, we've got some questions. Can an individual artist or activist apply with an attached 501c3? Yes, individuals are also welcome to apply without being attached to a 501c3. That's important to note, but we do, it is helpful to see you've attached to one in some way. We've already answered some questions about international projects. Basically, the long and short of the international situation is right now we are not set up to give outside the US within this context. So everything would have to at least be connected to the US in some way. If the fellow is a nonprofit director, do the prize funds have to be used outside of the nonprofit, or can the nonprofit use the funds? Either. You saw some good examples today of that, of people who are connected to a nonprofit, working within their organization and outside of their organization. So both of those are okay. Let's see, rest of these are all, there are a lot of international questions. Let's see, can you speak about the kind of expenses that would be appropriate or not appropriate for the $40,000 program support?
I mean, anything that is germane to the implementation of the actual project. And that could include potentially some travel expenses. But they're certainly not going to go to, your individual housing on your own or those types of things. But, we're going to ask you, what do you need the money for? How are you going to utilize it? And so it would certainly be akin to any other application of we're looking for relevant and germane expenses that would allow you to implement a high quality intergenerational program that we would be proud of. So it's those are the types of things that would be appropriate. It's not to go to salary for you for a year. There is the stipend aspect of it, which is 10,000 of the 50,000 is directly a cash reward to thank you for your good work and to allow you to focus a little bit on this outside of your everyday duties as currently existing. But the 40,000 is designed to be necessary for the implementation of your project to ensure success.
Let's go to, you mentioned research could be funded. Might the project alternatively include developing a training or other intergenerational guides or information? Put more simply, does the project have to include direct service to individuals, or can it be the development of resources? Julie, you did see a model from one of our fellows, Marvell, who is working on a blueprint for intergenerational housing near HBCUs. Trent, anything else you want to add there?
I think that goes back to my original answer, which is, yes, and we want you to advance the field. So if your project advances the field either through a high quality program with implementation that we can replicate in other communities, or if it's a resource guide that will allow other people to do good things to bring the generations together, either one is a perfectly fine thing. We're interested in new models, new ideas. This is designed to be innovative, entrepreneurial, do things that haven't been done before, try things that haven't necessarily been tried before. But really, at the end of it, we hope that you leave more committed to intergenerational programming. You have the resources, you have the connections, you have the information you need to be a true leader in the years to come in the intergenerational movement. And we hope that the intergenerational movement is enriched by you being an Eisner Fellow, an Eisner Prize Fellow for your year, that the work you leave behind, the work you build on is something that will make the world a little more humane, a little more connected, a little more intergenerational. So the answer is yes, go for it. I want to hear about it. We want to know what's going on that's interesting and innovative, that brings generations together.
I'll do two very quick ones here. Can I submit more than one application? Technically, yes, but preferably no. We are anticipating a very, very high volume of applications based on what we got last year. This is extremely competitive. And so I would definitely try to focus your best idea into a single application. Likewise, as Trent just said, to this question, what are some acceptable program ideas? We're looking for new, interesting, innovative programs. If you need some inspiration as to what we have historically seen as good intergenerational programs, please take a look at our website. We have a list of all of our previous partnerships. Our blog has some great spotlights. We've got some great videos of great intergenerational programs that you can use as inspiration. But if you are new to this work, we highly also encourage you to look at the work of Generations United and Co-Generate, who are also doing some fantastic work across the country in this field. There was one up here that I wanted to go to. What do you mean by curating the supplemental materials? So some applications have 0 supplemental materials, and some of those applications were chosen as fellows this year. Other applications had 5,000 supplemental materials. There was a lot for some of these applications, and they weren't necessarily chosen as fellows. Your supplemental materials don't necessarily have a bearing on the outcome of your application here. What I would say is that maybe pick 2 or 3 tops of what really showcases who you are, the work you're doing, and what you're capable of. That really will depend on what you are proposing. But just keep in mind that we are a small team reviewing a lot of applications. And if you're putting in 20, 30 letters of recommendation, we may not be able to get to them all. So be mindful of the time of the people that you're asking for letters of recommendation or supplemental materials or things along those lines. I would highly recommend keeping things short, sweet, and to the point on the application itself and in your supplemental materials. Trent, anything to add there?
No, we review grant applications for a living, and it's harder to write short than it is to write long. And I admire your ability to tell us what you need to tell us, and then get out of there. Doing a data dump on us isn't the most strategic thing in the history of the world on your part. There's my small amount of advice. If you have relevant information and it didn't fit in the application and you think we need to know, absolutely. Send it on. But if you just wanted to show us how much you have on your iCloud and you wanted to send it to us, just remember that we do this a lot, and we're not going to necessarily revel in 17 attachments.
And then finally, because we're coming up on time, we had a couple questions around sustainability and long-term funding. Are the fellows, can they possibly be funded past the fellowship year? What are we looking for in terms of sustainability plans in the application itself? Things along those lines. Anything you'd like to say to that, Anne Trent?
Well, if it's a 501c3 and you're working in one of our geographic areas, which currently are Los Angeles and New York City, then, at the end of your fellowship, you would certainly be welcome to reapply. I don't imagine that we're going to be funding outside of those geographic areas with anything other than the Eisner Prize Fellowship in the immediate future. So that's a different issue. But again, we're trying to get you to advance the field. So if using our seed funding gets a high quality program off the ground, then we're hopeful that your program will indeed be sustainable and that there will be funders in your community that see that you have built this on our dime, and now they can come in and support it and know that they too are uniting the generations for the betterment of their communities. So we'd like you to build it in a way that it will be sustainable, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that there'll be future funding from the Eisner Foundation. This is a fellowship and not a multi-year grant program.
Yes, and I'll also add that in our monthly meetings that this year's fellowship cohort has had, we have done a lot of discussion around funding, around grant opportunities. We've had some really great guest speakers come in on that topic, and that's something that we plan to do in the coming year as well. So we are at the hour. So thank you, all of you for coming. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions, but hopefully we got to enough of them. Again, please check out our website, eisnerfoundation.org, for more information, and you will be getting an email with a recording of this video and the link to the application in the coming day or so. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day.